like 10 minutes into it, you're gonna be like, God, I'll pay $20 for a dozen eggs. This is bullshit.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Beckoning Brilliance. I'm your host, Becca Booka, and today's guest is my friend Lynn. She is a farmer from Minnesota. She's here today to talk about the importance of knowing where your food comes from, the ins and outs of farming, the good, the bad, the ugly, and gives us tips for how we can become more food sovereign ourselves. If you've ever talked about living off grid, starting your own farm, growing your own food, this is the episode for you. Let's get into it. Lynn, what's up?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Wonderful. So for any of you guys that don't know, Lynn, I've known you since middle school, I think. It's been well over 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, don't date us, but yes.
Yeah. A really long time. But anyway, so how long have you been farming for?
Oh gosh, like 11, 12 years now.
Yeah, I feel like kind of an asshole because I don't even know how you got into farming.
I think people are like born with it. Like you just have something in you that you need to do this. Some calling.
Mm-hmm.
And like my parents
Yeah.
kind of farmed back in the day. And they still do, but they had like big gardens and my grandparents had farmed. It was just kind of a crazy story. Like we ended up being homeless essentially and bought a farm at an auction.
You and your husband?
Yep.
You
So
and your husband were homeless?
we totally were. So we like twofold, like bought this farm. We both had houses. Total like 2008 housing crash situation happened. I couldn't get any loans.
Mm-hmm.
We had to like liquidate our houses, sell them, and like rent his neighbor's house for like 6 months. And there was nothing on the market. So we're like, oh my gosh. And we heard about this house going up for auction. And we put in a bid at an auction and ended up with a farm.
Did you intend on buying the farm or?
We intended on like buying something with a little bit of acreage because we knew we wanted to have animals and kind of raise our own food and do all of the above. But yeah, this kind of just happened where we were like, oh, auction house, auction farm, let's do this. The farming part came in later. So that same year we ended up getting married, we eloped, we went to Texas, and when we came home, we had the neighbor watch our house. We're like, hey, what's going on? Why do I hear chickens? As a joke, our friends had left 2 chickens in our outbuilding, and that like started it all. So our true farming started with 2 chickens, and we named them White Lightning and Chuck, and they lasted for like 10 years.
I was gonna say, if someone just gifted me chickens, I'd be like,
I was like walking in the house. I'm like, what the hell's that noise? Do you hear a fucking chicken? Like what? Yep, there they were. So yeah, they like did it as a joke, and we're like, oh well, maybe we should like get them some friends. Maybe they're lonely. And we ended up with like 37 chickens. But
37?
that's kind of how it happened.
Did you know how to take care of these animals? Because like I said, if someone just like left some chickens on my doorstep, I'd be like, YouTube. I'd be Googling. I would have no idea how to take care of any animals or even begin farming.
I mean, I had grown up with animals, and like my husband grew up on a dairy farm, so he was familiar with animals. Chickens are not my jam, like they're not my favorite, but he had a good understanding of what it was going to take. And I was like, well, that's great, because like I don't really want to deal with them, but I'd love to eat their eggs. So yeah, he kind of understood what was going on. It was more of a learning process with some of the animals for me, but the growing process of like vegetables and gardening and like soil health, I feel like I had that down just from growing up.
Yeah, you have produce, you have animals, you make like skincare products, you make jewelry, you do yarn, you do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So we do everything we can from the farm. So like think like fully sustainable, like full circle, everything we can do with the animals, with everything. So for example, our sheep and alpaca fiber, we try and do like a whole sustainable product line with them. So we have like really cool sponge sets that we do that are compostable and like all natural, antimicrobial, because wool naturally is. And it's just crazy, like the stuff you can do with, I guess, animal byproduct.
Yeah.
And, composting the manure and using it as fertilizer in our gardens so we don't have to use chemical. It's just a full circle. So yeah. I think people think like farming and homesteading and they think like cute little domestic wife wearing like an apron, and no, think like feral, totally feral. That's me.
That's you. Yeah, I would have no idea even where to begin. So, okay, so there's so many things I could talk to you about right now. So I've always tried to eat healthy and I've tried to like eat organic when it comes to produce and meat, but a lot of people I think don't
Yeah.
find the importance in doing that. They don't even know how to look for organic and they don't know anything about GMOs. So I know this is kind of a large question, but can you explain like what
Oh,
makes something organic and
yeah.
why it's important?
So organic is using only organic product on your fruits and vegetables, or only feeding your animals organic feed so that they are true USDA certified organic. However, there's like a slightly misconstrued bit there where just because it's organic doesn't mean they're not using chemical on it. It just means they're using organic chemical on it.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of scary. So organic meaning like 95% certified organic content is used on it if it says USDA organic. If it says made with organic, only 70% of it has to be content of organic. So that's the labeling system is like a huge scam right now, and it's so scary, and people should be super concerned about like what's going on with that. Just because something says like made with organic doesn't necessarily mean it's great. Some of
Mm,
these organic chemicals out there are like borderline not real wonderful.
yeah.
You're better off to like find all natural, somebody who's doing the certified naturally grown, talking to your farmers and making sure they're doing some sort of practice that you can really get behind and agree with. But definitely, when you go to the grocery store, buying organic is going to be 100 times better than buying something that has all of these huge label ingredients and words that nobody can say. Like, why? What are you putting in your body? Why would you want to eat that?
But it's scary.
So
I
gross.
feel like a lot of people don't even read the labels.
No, nobody does. And then they have like these cute little like labeling systems they have on the front right now where it's like GMO project, like non-GMO product. Okay, on maple syrup, like what the hell is going to be a GMO in your maple syrup? Like what? Or like where they're saying like non-GMO wheat. There is no such fucking thing as GMO wheat. Like people, we need to they're using
Okay.
these labels as a scam, and instead of using them in a proper way and like informative, they're just it's gross. They're using it to make money because they want people to feel safe because it said like GMO project on it.
Yeah, it's almost
So
like
gross.
a trendy thing. Like remember when we had like the like fat free and then it was like trans fat free with like all those little like catchphrases
Yes.
that people like latch onto.
Yes.
Cause even as you're like GMO
Yes.
maple syrup, I'm like,
That
okay, what's bad about that? Like what's bad about like
tree sap.
I don't know. You can't make that shit in the lab. I feel like you can make everything in a lab.
And they do. And then if you look on some of these packages, it says like bioengineered ingredients. What the fuck is a bioengineered ingredient? And do
I
I
don't know.
want that in me? No, I don't want like something they made it in a petri dish in my body. Gross. I
Right.
don't know. It's really gross. Like GMO is like a whole nother bag to unpack. Organic is always going to be better than your typical product you're going to buy.
Mhm.
Someone's done a little bit better job than the average. So I would always recommend going organic. Like vote with your dollars, use your money wisely. I get that it's probably more money up front, but like if you don't pay for it now, you're going to pay for it later in your health, and that's where it sits. It's kind
Amen.
of a matter of fact situation.
I think that's what deters a lot of people from buying
Yeah,
organic is the cost, unfortunately. But it's like every even when you do buy organic, at least for me, it always tastes better. And it always I
tastes
always
better.
yeah, and I just you can like tell that there's more nutrients in it. I know that sounds really weird, but I feel like it does fill you up in a different way than when you're just eating traditional, conventional produce.
Yeah, because conventional produce is just like water and like filler. It's just they're grown so differently and they have no nutrients to them. Like when they grow this stuff, the nutrients factors are being stripped entirely out of it. It's changing its entire nutrient profile, how they're growing it. You're growing it in a greenhouse. It can't have access to sunlight. It can't have access to even like soil, anything regenerative, anything it might actually need, nitrogen, and they're using synthetics. They're growing this with like synthetic fertilizers and stuff that you really don't want to put in your body. So that's why it tastes different. It's just because of what they're using on it.
Interesting. So I'm assuming that soil has a lot to do with everything. Does that have to do with like the nutrients and everything like that too? Again, I don't know anything about farming.
Everything. Everything.
It does?
Everything. So
Yeah.
like if you think about like what you're putting into your body,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes your entire body function and who you are and what you are. Think of the same thing in like a plant. So what it's planted in and what's its surrounding situation is going to determine how it tastes, how it grows, everything, how much nutrients it has in it. So if you have stripped down, disgusting, dead white soil that's been treated with chemicals and all of this other garbage, has no earthworms because they can't even live in the soil, there's not enough nutrients. How do you expect to have a plant come out of that and have any sort of value or any sort of taste or any sort of anything that might be good for you? It just doesn't. It's mass production of product to get it into the supermarkets, have it look appealing, and then for greed. Like it's all about the money. It's just crazy.
It's interesting when I was telling people that I was having you on, everyone said the exact same thing. Like, dude, farmers make bank. And I was like, I don't know if small farmers do.
Oh my God. No, no.
No.
Like we work for literally $0. I think our accountant thinks we're mental. She's like, "How long are you guys gonna keep doing this?" I'm like, as long as I want to eat, I guess is the answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no money in that game, and I think it's hilarious because people will be like, "Oh, well, we go to the markets and everyone's like, oh, well, you drive a decent truck," and it's like, yeah, that's what our day jobs pay for, and they're like, well, that's a write off, and I was like, oh my God, what do you think? Because I can use the gas mileage as a write off that this truck was free? No, no. There's there's not a lot of money to be had in this. I will be honest. And when we first started, I had gone to a bunch of seminars and gotten involved with a lot of the co-ops and stuff in the area. One of the guys speaking was like giving advice, and somebody asked him, they're like, if you could give advice to anyone who's starting out now, what would you tell them? And he's like, don't do it, get out of it, you can't make a career in it. And I'm like, oh my God, it was so disheartening to hear. But now, like 12 years in, I'm like, huh, that probably wasn't that bad of advice.
Based on what I know about you personally and what I see on your social media, it seems like partially you do it for your kids too, to teach them the importance of hard work and showing them
Yeah,
where their food comes from.
like where does your food come from? Everyone should know this. I can't tell you how many people will come to the farmers market and be like, "Oh, well, there's like dirt on these winter squash," and I'm like, "Yeah, because they grow in like a field with dirt." Or like, "Why is there dirt on this potato?" Well, because it grows underground, and there's going to be dirt on that. It's not the grocery store where I've like scrubbed every ounce of nutrients off of it. I mean, just understanding like where your food comes from and how it grows, or kind of full circle of life. It's the same thing with like our regenerative style of farming. Like everything has a full circle of life. So we might start a plant from a seedling and then plant it in the ground. They can watch it grow. We harvest it, we eat it, and then we feed like any plant material that's left to our animals. So like the chickens will eat, leftover kale or lettuce that's kind of like too old to sell or too old for us to eat, but it's really good for them.
Do you have to slaughter your animals?
We used to do our own chickens.
Mm-hmm.
We used to butcher here and just for us. If we sell meat at markets, and this is like one of the hangups right now in our state, and I'm sure this is happening across the nation. I've heard many people complaining about the same thing. Different rulings in every state, but right now, if we sell meat at market, we have to have it E2 certified, which means that it has gone to a commercial processing facility. It's not been processed here on the farm. It has to be inspected by the state, and they have to go through and make sure that all of our animals are healthy. They're not, they don't have any disease. They comply with all of the current anything happening. So, like when the bird flu and this avian flu and stuff is going around, they test for this kind of thing so that this meat doesn't get put out in public commodity, which makes sense. I mean, it's not a bad program to have. However, in the past like 5 years, I would say, there's literally two processing facilities in the state of Minnesota who will do E2 certification. And both of them are like 250 plus miles away. So then you have to make this determination like, do we even do chickens for resale anymore? Or do we just do them for ourselves? because we can butcher them here on the farm for ourselves and for our consumption,
Mhm.
but we're not allowed to sell anything that isn't inspected by the state. And these small processing facilities are doing the best they can, but there's just a ton of red tape coming down on them from the government. And it's not worth their time and money anymore to try and keep up these certifications and compliances. And therefore, they're kind of dropping that whole E2 program. So I feel like small farmers are going to get aced out of the hole on this one because there's just less and less processing facilities who are willing to do this certification for us. It's getting really hard to find. We've had to switch to like 4 different butcher shops in the last 2 years, and it just keeps jockeying around. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, again. But we do butcher on site if we're doing an animal for ourselves. Typically, it's if something goes, something happens, like a chicken might get a broken leg or like splay leg, and if you catch it right away, they're not going to live through that, but there's nothing wrong with them. So we'll butcher and we'll eat it typically like that night. But yeah, the kids are around. They've seen the whole process. I know that seems like horrifying to most people to let your children witness this, but they totally understand where their food comes from and they're thankful for it.
Yeah.
So,
Do you ever get attached to your animals? Are you like, no, I don't want this one to die?
yeah, I know we do. We get bottle lambs in the spring sometimes where like the mom will have, the ewe will have twins and she won't take one of them, or sometimes even triplets, and you have to bottle feed one of them, and this becomes like your child. You literally take like a baby bottle and feed this little lamb every 4 hours, and they get to know you. They become attached to you. They run up to you, and it's adorable, but it's also crushing then if you have to ship them later on. But
Oh my God.
you
I
know,
couldn't do it.
it's all kind of part of the game.
Yeah.
You become thankful for your food and you become really respectful of it, and it makes those hard situations a little bit more understandable, but never easy.
Probably 10 years ago, I was a vegetarian for like 2 years, I want to say. And I feel like all of the documentaries that I was watching that kind of like swayed me into being vegetarian was, they're showing all this footage from all these farms, and all these animals are like crammed in there, and it was just like horrifying like situations, and they're just being
Yeah.
killed left and right, and it's like you can actually like feel the terror in your food when you're eating meat. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I got to stop
Oh
eating meat,
God.
right? But so it's so interesting to like think about small farmers and like you literally bottle feeding one of the animals, and it's like there just seems to be a lot more compassion and caring. So I, not to sound all like woo woo spiritual, but I wonder if even on that level, like when I am consuming meat from a small farm, I wonder if it's just better on that level too.
I mean, I'll be biased because we eat our own meat and I think it tastes better, but even selling at the market, people are like, oh my gosh, like you can taste the difference in this meat. And I was like, yeah, because they're happy animals. They're treated right.
Yeah.
They're fed well. They're not eating garbage, like literal garbage
Yeah.
from dumpsters. I mean, it's just crazy. Some of the stuff that these people are feeding them. I know a lot of people feed their pigs like expired milk. Do you want to eat a pig that has lived its entire life eating expired milk?
No.
That is disgusting. That's so
Yeah.
gross. I mean, you are what you eat. So, like, if this pig is eating something rotten, you're essentially eating this rotten meat. It can't taste good.
No.
There's no way.
No.
So gross.
That is gross. I also feel like there's been kind of a big trend of people shifting back to eating meat. I've noticed a lot of people that I follow in like the yoga world or whatever. A lot of people were vegan, and now they've quietly started to go back to eating meat because they just were lacking energy. Have you also noticed that more people are kind of shifting to that?
I think like our meat sales have gone up. There's been kind of a weird shift the last 2 years. Meat sales have definitely gone up. I do agree with that. So I would say there's something going on with people either switching back to eating protein or deciding they don't want to be a vegetarian, or maybe hearing that small farms are great and just wanting to only eat meat from us. I don't
They
know.
should.
But the market as a whole took like kind of a tank last year. I don't want to say that otherwise, but in 2020, when the whole Rona and food security, and especially when it came to meat and like weird things were limited
Hmm.
and people couldn't source it, our phone was ringing off the hook. Oh my god, I bought meat from you one time at the market. Can I buy some meat from you? I think people were just panicked and
Yeah.
thinking like they weren't going to be able to find meat or this produce, and they were just to going any route that they could. And they were contacting us nonstop, calling. And in the last 2 years, as the grocery stores have kind of like let up on these limits on items and meat has kind of come back to being fully stocked, we've seen a total turn. And it was like this huge movement. They're like, oh, I want to get to know my farmer. I don't ever want to have, like food security issues. And then it's back in the grocery store and it's like, oh yeah, screw you. I'm just going to buy it from the grocery store. It's way easier than like getting my ass out of bed on Saturday and going to the farmer's market. So it's like, oh, okay. See where you were at.
Yeah.
But, so this whole food movement we were hoping would hang in, and it was awesome because people were super interested. And I don't know how much of that was like false or they were just interested because they needed to secure food for their family. And I get it. I mean, people are going to do weird things when it comes down to food security, but I don't know. So I would say an uptick in meat sales overall, but as far as people coming to the farmers market and supporting local farmers, it went to its height in 2020 and has tanked. Like it's just dropped down. We've had it wasn't a great year. And it wasn't just us. It was like all the vendors next to us who are selling produce are like, yeah, not a very good year. I was hoping that little trend would hang in there and people would be really interested in their food and their health, but guess not.
Feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just people were thinking they're going to die any day, and they're people that watch the news are so freaked out by everything, and then once everything was back to normal, they're like, okay, let me just go back to whatever my normal state was.
Yep.
That sucks though.
Yeah. It's just ease and convenience.
Yeah.
If you're going to get it in the grocery store and it's there and you can do it on your time when it works for you, that's great. But yeah, it was just like disheartening. I was like, oh, so is that like fake or
Yeah.
did you really care about where your food came from? Because you should. But
Yeah. Why should people care where their food comes from?
oh my God, like look at these commercial commodities like this. Okay, so an example. When we moved in here, we're surrounded by commercial farm, and we experienced a case of drift. Like their commercial chemical got on our side and like wiped out our tomato plants, like killed our plants entirely. And so we had to call the state out and get them involved, and it was a big ordeal. And the state said, like, what do you do like when they're spraying? I was like, well, I take my kids and I go inside. Gross. And she's like, oh yeah. Like you totally want to do that. And so then they came out and tested our plants, and they're like, yeah, oh, these tomatoes are toxic waste. The plants themselves, 5 feet away from us, is soybeans that got the same spray on it that they are going to turn around and put into public commodity for human consumption. So my tomato plants, you're telling me, are toxic waste, and you wore a hazmat suit to come and sample them, but 5 feet away is a whole big field of soybeans that is going to be processed and put in about every goddamn food you eat. Like public commodity. Look at every package. There's almost soy in everything you eat. So how does that add up? Right. Like what? What is going on? Why would anyone want to eat that? They put a prohibition on our farm. We weren't allowed to sell so much as like a blade of grass. Like we were shut down for the year because of that. But yet the commercial farmer next to me goes on and sells his product to, whoever wants to buy gross ass GMO glyphosate covered crap.
That's scary.
But, it's in everyone's food. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, and this is like, how is this not even known about? And like everyone I tell this story to is like, oh my God, I guess I never thought about it. I was like, pick up a package. There is soy in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And we're one of the only countries that does not ban this disgusting glyphosate. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's like the main ingredient in Roundup and a ton of the chemicals that are being used on these commercial fields. And when we talk about like GMOs, it's a genetically modified organism. So they've made these corn, soybeans, alfalfa, cotton. There's like a handful of crops right now that are tweaked genetically so that they can handle this being sprayed on them and it won't kill them. So when we talk GMOs, it's not necessarily that all GMOs are horrible. It's that what are they modifying them to do? Are they modifying these crops to be sprayed with something that is considered toxic? In that case, then yeah, that's super bad. Who wants that? I don't know. People should definitely care about where your food comes from.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one example, and I could give you like a million more. Like I said, these pigs being fed like rotten or spoiled milk.
Yeah, that's so
That's
gross.
horrifying. There was a there was an episode we watched of like Dirty Jobs that forever will haunt me, where like Mike Rowe was going through dumpsters in Las Vegas, and they had them delivered to a pig farm, and this pig farmer was feeding these dumpsters of leftover food to his pigs, but they were picking out like paintbrushes and syringes because the pigs will just eat whatever you put in front of them. And I'm like, oh my God,
That's disgusting.
a commercial pig farmer literally feeding their pigs trash. Like, and then you don't know. You go and buy a package of meat from the store. You have no idea what this animal ate. None. You need to care about where your food is coming from. Like seriously, go out and meet a farmer, befriend them, and then be like, listen, legit, I'll give you my like grocery finances for the week. Hook me up.
How
It's so
hard is it
weird.
to be considered organic though? Like get that label. Is that really hard?
So I will be honest, and I am with everyone. We are not certified organic.
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of going back to like the labeling structure right now, it is difficult. You have to have like your soil, you have to leave it for 3 years and you have to regenerate it, and you have to go through all the compliances and all of the testing, and they come out, and there's quite a large fee involved with getting USDA certified organic, and it takes time. There's a big time commitment. So what we were finding is that people were not willing to pay at markets because like you said, organic is expensive and they don't want to pay that full premium price, but you would have to charge it because you went through all the extra work to get the certification. It has to pay itself off in the end. So we do like organically raised, which essentially is the exact same thing. We don't use chemicals. We do everything the hard way by hand, but I didn't go through the testing. We're not certified. So it's basically trusting that what I'm telling you is what I'm doing. But I think for anyone who wants to like stop out or follow us on our social media, you can see that that's the truth. So farming would be a lot easier if I would just comply to like the ways of what they want us to do. But I don't know. I can't get on board with some of the stuff that's going on there. And like I said, I feel like some of this labeling stuff is such a scam. Like it's not even it's not even that you're getting exactly what's on the label or exactly what they're wanting you to buy into. So, making sure that it is a true organic product is something that you're going to like need to discuss with your producer, your farmer, your person at your farmer's market, your produce stand person. I guarantee if you go up and you're like, hey, do you want to talk about your product and your farm? No one's going to be like, oh, no, no, God. I mean, it's like their heart and soul. You've sunk everything you have into it. They're going to be like, yes, what do you want to know? But I think people are too afraid to ask,
Yeah.
or they're like too off put. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some stigma with farmers. Like we're scary, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
But
know.
find
I
it,
think I just don't know anything about farming. So I guess I would assume most people don't even like know what kind of questions
yeah.
to ask.
Yeah, I do think that's legitimate. I think a lot of people aren't they're like afraid to ask a dumb question.
Right.
And I mean, like don't get me wrong, we've had some real doozies at the farmers market and it's like, what?
I mean, I was even nervous coming up with my questions. I'm like, all these are very like 101.
Yeah, but I think that's how everyone
Mhm.
is. Nobody knows a lot about it. And it's so crazy to me that people eat. You have to eat like 3 times a day in order to live. You need to eat. Aren't you interested as to where the hell this food comes from? Like, who's growing it? What's going on with it? You're just putting like random shit in your body. I mean, that's like walking around like injecting yourself with like, oh, I don't know what's in this syringe. I'm just gonna throw it in my body and see what the hell happens. No, no.
I mean, I agree with you, but a lot of people don't think of it as being the same way because like food literally it's your medicine. Or it can
Yeah,
be. Your food can be your medicine.
food is
Well,
medicine. You can
well,
heal so much of your issues with like food,
I was
food,
gonna say, but if
good
you're eating,
food, not
that's what I'm
shit.
saying.
Good
That's what I'm
food.
saying. It can be your medicine. If you're eating shitty stuff, like it's just gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to like
God, people, come on.
so going back to like labeling stuff and like all the like regulations and everything. So I'm sure you've seen
Hmm.
that God, I don't even know if I can say his name without being shadow banned, but like Bill Gates has bought a bunch of farmland. Like it seems like the government just wants to have their little hands in everything. So dude, I'm gonna have to bleep out his name.
Oh my God. Bleep Gates. Yeah.
Blank Gates.
That's what we'll refer to him as. Yeah.
Voldemort Gates. Anyway, so how do you feel about all that?
Uh, I feel scared. I feel like people should feel scared. I think our food system's super broken, and I don't think this is going to help because that to me looks like sleight of hand. Like, what's going on here? He's on a power trip, and if you control the food, you control the people. How are you going to control the food? I don't know, like by buying all the land that you need to grow it on. Hey, that's step one. I don't know what's going on there. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel comfortable with it. There's something that's going to blow through on that, I'm sure. And I swear to God, like everyone be concerned. You need to know. You need to know like where your food is coming from, how to grow it. We talk about food sovereignty a ton in our household. Like food sovereignty is freedom. If you are in control of your food and you are able to even do a little bit, like everyone can do a little bit, you have freedom. You have freedom if you have food and you're able to produce it for yourself. So I get really sick of people being like, oh, like I just don't know how to grow anything. I can't do it. I live in an apartment. And I'm like, bullshit. It's like $12 to get yourself a little microgreen growing kit on Amazon, and anyone can do it. Go on my Insta. I've got a whole step by step in the story highlights. It's like 5 minutes of your time. You can grow your own microgreens in a window in your apartment. Okay, like there's a bunch of stuff you can do. And it's not hard. And I know like a lot of people just don't dig it. They're not into it. Then get yourself hooked up with the right people. Get yourself in a CSA, like which for people who don't know what that is, it's community supported agriculture. We ran them for probably like 5 years here off the farm, and it just got to be like overwhelming with having small kids. So we decided to opt for the produce stand instead and run that. But community supported agriculture. So you can sign up for a full share or half share, and it's like your growing season. You get a box of produce a week. It is farm fresh. You get to meet the farmers who are growing it. They usually have like drop points or deliveries. Sometimes they're at farmers markets. It's awesome. If you get in with a really good one, you can find organic ones. Sometimes they like throw recipes in there for people who have no idea what the hell to do with kale or like Swiss chard. Like what is that? What do you do with that? So like there's little steps you can do. And I'm not saying everyone has to go from like zero to let's go off grid and buy a farm. That's not like what I'm preaching, but I'm saying like everyone can do a little part. You're not going to be 100%, you know, food sovereign and just and free of buying stuff from somewhere or being reliant on the government or, you know, like bleep Gates. But you can do little steps and like little parts to get yourself to a more comfortable position. And I keep thinking back to like 2020. I can't imagine having kids and like not knowing that we have the ability to like grow our own food or secure our own meat here on our farms. I would have been panicked. I guess I would have been calling people who I had met at the farmers market 10 years ago too. I mean, it's scary, but like we're not, I don't feel like the world is in a really good place right now. Like this could easily happen again with stuff that's going on with everything, like the whole bank crash and Silicon Valley and stuff this week. I mean, this is too real. This just happened a couple years ago. Like food security is an issue, and this is totally going to happen again. I mean, look at this. We've had how many recessions in the last decade, and like, okay, pandemic, and what's next? But you know, obviously the things you need to live are food and water. So I would say get in front of that one. It's good common sense.
Man.
But
You posted recently on your Instagram that you were no longer selling eggs because of inflation. So I'm curious if you would talk about that because I know everyone was losing their minds over eggs recently and how
oh
expensive they were
yeah.
and the egg
Oh my
shortage. So like, can you
God.
speak on that a little bit?
Okay, so it was actually the post was like regarding us selling chickens this year at market,
Oh,
and we're not doing
okay.
it. Like we're just not because of inflation. But I'll definitely talk to the point of eggs. So here's the deal for everyone who's like hyped up on this. The cost of feed to feed a chicken has tripled in the last year for a small farmer or big commodity farms. Tripled, almost quadrupled at this point. So when we were selling market eggs and it was like, $5 a dozen for like cage free, chemical free, free range, like they are all of the things, which again, part of that is all in labeling. My gosh, like people look into this, but okay. They just love seeing these words. And it's like, well, they are all of these things. They live on a farm. They eat like bugs and leftover garden scraps, which are organic. So technically, I guess these eggs are probably like organic too. But anyway, feed is so expensive. It's through the roof. And like the other things you need for a chicken to live are bedding of some kind. So you need like a wood chip flake or straw, which is also through the roof right now. It's insanely expensive for just a bale of straw. So everything you need to maintain this chicken's life, we just got like shit on. Like, I mean, there's just no way. You can't turn around. We were almost not even making money on a dozen eggs the way it was at $5 a dozen, but now our cost has almost it's from tripled to quadrupled, and you expect me to still sell you these eggs at $5 a dozen? Like, you gotta be joking. I'm not gonna pay you to eat my eggs. What? I'm already not making any money at this. I'm not gonna go negative and be like, hey, why don't I just let you have these for $5 and I'll pay you the other $5 to eat my fucking eggs? No. And then everyone's like bent out of shape about it. They're like, well, but how come it's $9? I'm like, well, go to the fucking feed store and buy a bag of feed. Grow your own chickens. And let me tell you how not fun that is. Okay? Because you're like 10 minutes into it, you're gonna be like, God, I'll pay $20 for a dozen eggs. This is bullshit. These things poop everywhere. No. Just like be happy that eggs are $9 a dozen and that the farmer is maybe making like 10 cents on those dumb things, and just, eat your eggs. Eat your eggs knowing that nobody's making money on this other than the middleman. Middleman's making money somewhere, but it's not us. So farming is like the only industry that you don't know the bottom line. So that when you go to sell your product, there's a market. There's kind of like the stock market but it's like the farm report market, and it says set by the government and the standards and all the food commodity places are saying, we're going to give you X amount of dollars for this bushel of beans or this bushel of corn. So you might have paid so much money in to get this planted and whatever, but in the end of it, you're being told what you will get for a price for it. And the same goes for the milk industry. That price is set not by farmers. I mean, my God, they're making almost nothing. It's set by the government. So same with the meat. There's a whole meat market. When we go to sell a pig, for example, if we sell that pig on a day when the market is high, we have to go with whatever the market price is for that date. So to be fair to our customers, we try and tell them that it fluctuates, because it does, but whatever the price is on the day that we bring them into butcher is the price that we honor. But that price might fall at the bottom and you're getting like nothing for raising that animal. So it's one of the only industries where someone's telling you what your product is worth. And that's super disheartening. So it's like, how can you tell me what that animal's worth? I put like $10,000 into this. This is crazy. But they set the standard, and that is what it is, and it sucks. But so yeah, back to the pricing thing of like, why is something so much? Or like, why are eggs so much? That's why they set the standard on the price rate for feed. I can't change that price. I can't control that price. There's nothing I can do about that other than try and ask more for the output. That's why eggs are so high in the store right now, is because the price of feed is through the roof. But the price of feed could be a combination of, cracked corn or something else. And the government has set that price for that cracked corn. So they're the ones driving these prices up. It's kind of true with inflation too, but that's just how the whole game works. And that's the whole backside of things that I think a lot of people don't understand. And they get like, that's where that stigma of, oh, the farmer must be making a ton of money. No, we're not. We don't get to say what it's worth. We just get to do the crap work and then just hope and pray in the end that we're going to get a good result. But, we've been through many times where it's like, shit, we just lost a ton of money on that. Like, do we really do that again and hope that next time the market's better?
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it rolls through. And I think that's too why a lot of these like websites for farmers and like anywhere you go, there is like a ton of like suicide prevention hotline. It's like, oh my God, I can see why people just feel hopeless. It's crazy, but there's a ton of that going on. It's just, it's nuts. So like, yeah, don't be mad at your farmers. It's not us who's doing it. Okay. Right to your government. Yeah.
Oh man, I had no idea. That's mind blowing.
Yeah. It's crazy, guys, and this is all stuff that like needs to be known. So how do you like make a business plan and and look at that and be like, okay, this year I want to turn this profit when you don't know what you'll be able to charge for your product. Same goes with like even down to produce. I mean, we may grow produce that in my mind is worth, more because it's organically grown, but you're sitting at a market next to someone who's selling something that they sprayed and it looks perfect. And my organically grown tomatoes have cracks on the top, which they should, by the way. Don't eat a tomato that doesn't. I wouldn't trust it. But
really,
that's just how it goes. It's people want that perfect look and that perfect product, and that's not maybe what you should be eating.
this is so interesting. There seems to be a lot stacked against you. So why do you keep on doing it? Obviously you love it, but I'm like, damn, this sounds.
Oh my God. Yeah. So like, oh man, I'm telling you, every day is a struggle. And we like joke all the time. We're like, we should have people videotaping us. Like, we should have our own reality show, like Farmers for Real, or like write a book on this because you couldn't make this shit up. Like, you can't make some of this shit up. Like today, I went to do chores and I had to like chisel and shovel through 6 layers of ice or throw my kid over the barn doors so that someone could get in the barn to do chores. And it's like, this is just like 5 seconds into my day. But yeah, I mean, odds are stacked against a small farmer. It's not great. It's not a moneymaker. I mean, we do it because we are very passionate about like our food and clean eating and not eating this garbage that's being sold and like giving our kids a fighting chance. Like eat clean food, like have a clean start and at least that, and knowing that if something happens to us, you stand a chance. Like you can take care of yourself. You know how to grow a potato. You can like butcher a chicken, which probably not life skills for all 6 and 9 year olds, but for our kids, sure, yeah, that's important.
That's true power, though.
It is. It's like like I said, like food sovereignty is pure freedom. Like farming, as much crap work as it is, literal like a lot of poop scooping. Um, it's like good work. Like when you get done with your day, you are exhausted and you had fresh air. Your hands are dirty, but like you feel good. You connected with the earth. You connected with your food. You connected with your animals. Your kids did the same. Everyone's done for it. It's like, hey, today was a good day. It sucked. It was a lot of work, but today was a good day. But yeah, I don't know. Like we joke that the definition of insanity has like farmers' pictures right next to it when you look it up in the dictionary, because it's like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Well, oh my God, that's a small farmer. Weird. I don't know why we keep doing it, but that's all I can factor in is like we love it. And I mean, I'll be honest, I love food. I love to eat, and that's a big motivator.
How often do you go to the grocery store?
Oh God, I hate going to the grocery store.
But do you
Hate
even like
it.
have to?
Well, the two things we buy are milk and cheese, like dairy product, because we don't have a milk cow. Although there's been talk of it, so I mean maybe that'll change. But even still, I'll go to the local creamery, which is like 40 minutes from here, and I will stock up on cheese and freeze it if it means that I don't have to go to the grocery store later on down the line. Or like maybe I can trade the neighbors some milk off their farm for something I'm making. That's been done before too. So I would say we go to the grocery store twice a month.
Okay.
In the winter, I do a lot of like the bread baking and sourdough, and so really we're just pulling from the freezers. And I mean, God, summer's crazy. I mean, we have like 6 months to get it all done, but it's like we can and we freeze and we freeze dry and we dehydrate. And obviously we have all the meat selections. So what we don't have, we can usually barter for. So like we have a neighbor who and a friend, and he does beef. So we'll trade him like pork towards a quarter of beef, and we'll buy directly from the farmer. It goes directly to the butcher, and then it comes to us. So it's like a whole barter system. Don't tell the government; they'll want to tax me on it. But
I won't say a word. I was gonna say this sounds so like Little House on the Prairie to me, but I love that you guys do it. It's just so I'm so far removed from that
I know,
lifestyle. It's crazy.
I know. But I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. Is like, okay, we're still friends,
No,
and we have been for 20
yeah,
plus years, and our lifestyles are completely different. But at the same time, I mean, like, chat with your
mm-hmm.
farmers. What's going on? They're probably not that different than what you think. But I do think there is like this, I don't know, this weird stigma with farmers, and people kind of throw this judgment out like they're, I don't know, like podunk or not that smart. And that's so the opposite. Like, you have to be incredibly ingenuitive to make this a go. Because one, you have no money to work with, and two, you just have to use like what you have and make shit work. So, and I mean, now there's like the whole like government red tape side of things where you have to be like ahead of that. You have to be applying for all these licenses, and um, it's crazy. So there's a whole nother side of that too. It's a whole different lifestyle. That's funny you say Little House on the Prairie because it's like my kids' favorite show. It's kind of funny.
Of course it is. They're like we can relate.
Uh,
I think that's cute.
right?
No,
If I start wearing weird dresses like that, like let let me know.
um,
Not okay.
this is slightly off topic, but when you started talking about the season change, it made me think. So seeing as how it was just daylight savings time, every time I look it up, I'm like, what the fuck is the point of daylight savings time? It always says it's for the farmers, and I'm like, why? And so I've been meaning to ask you, what the fuck? What the fuck is the deal with
No,
daylight savings
it's
time?
not. It's
It's
not.
not.
So I do the same thing, and I look it up every time because I'm like, God, who makes this rule? This is so stupid. My kids are crabby for a week, and I
Yeah.
hate it. But I think farmers get associated with it because apparently, like in the early 1900s, they lobbied against it, actually not wanting
Okay.
it. So their name gets kind of like thrown in on this
Mm-hmm.
mix, but actually, it was only ever put into play to conserve energy. So like less lights on because you would be using natural light, and there's really no association with farming. I think there was a weird rumor about it, but if you look it up, it has nothing to do with it other than farmers lobbied against it, and so I think they got associated with it.
Huh.
But yeah,
Interesting.
I looked it up too.
Because I'm like,
I had to find the
well,
facts.
I mean, I always feel like mad about it, but then when I swear every time I Google it, it's the same thing that pops up, but it says something about it being beneficial to farmers. And then so it's like, okay, well, how can I be mad at that? But you're saying that's a lie.
I honestly I don't even know how it could be beneficial. I think that's bull. It has not helped me in one way other than made me more tired and made my ass not want to get up or go do any chores because I'm like, oh God, this is an hour earlier. You need to be fed. You're kidding me.
For sure.
Yep.
Um, so are there a lot of females in farming? I feel like that's kind of rare.
Yeah. So it's mostly a male dominated
Mm-hmm.
industry. Um, I think the tables are turning on that slightly, which is
Yeah.
good. It's good. But if you go to like I had to go to the local farm agency and get some paperwork for a grant and stuff that I was working on. And that's when they informed me like I stand a good chance at getting a grant because I'm socially disadvantaged. And I was like, what? What? And they're like, yeah, well, you're female, so you're socially disadvantaged. I'm like, well, what the fuck? I mean, but okay, if that gets me the grant, great. But yeah, so as an industry whole, all you ladies out there who are thinking, "Hey, I'm going to get into farming," you stand a good chance at getting maybe some financial aid or some help because you're socially
What the
disadvantaged.
fuck does that
So,
even mean?
yeah, there was a whole category. It was like a whole category, and it's like if you were female, if you were of a different ethnicity, if you had been farming for less than 10 years. And I mean, I checked like a lot of the boxes, so I was like, damn, maybe this was worth my trip to town. But um, yeah, I was a little discouraged and like disheartened to hear that. I'm like, great. So like the odds are stacked against me like trifold. That's cool.
That's so.
Maybe I'm in the wrong industry. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm going to be like, fuck you, I'm going to do it better than anyone else
That's
can
right.
because now you told me I'm socially disadvantaged and I have to prove you wrong. Like, that's where I'm at with it. I've got a whole weird stubborn streak, which is probably why I've farmed for so long. Like I can't let it win. I can't let it
Yeah.
win me. I will win it.
I feel like you'd have to, especially in Minnesota too, with how fucking cold it is. Like that's got to be
Oh,
another hurdle for you to jump over.
everything. There's this hilarious Instagram reel going around. It's like this is what $0 an hour looks like, and it's everyone doing these farm chores, and I find it hilarious. But it was a lady who was chopping open the water feeders will constantly freeze up and you can have heaters that you put in them, but hello, we live in Minnesota, and if you have like 20 different water feeders for your animals, there's no way you're keeping them all from
Yeah.
freezing. So these like negative temps are just annoying as hell. But she's chopping open this water trough with like a goddamn sledgehammer. I'm like, I have been in this situation, and like we keep an ice chisel by the water feeders for the animals because they're constantly freezing up. So everyone jokes and kind of laughs about it, and I'm like, you guys, like spring is coming. Like I gotta get on Beachbody. Like I gotta get my workouts in. This is legitimate. Like I can't go into this season like not in shape. I need to be in shape. And everyone's like, what? What's wrong with you? And I was like, you don't understand. In like a day's time, the physicality of this is insane. And like if you're like weak at all, I mean, this farm will eat you up and chew you out, and that's it. So I mean, I'm lifting those heavy weights because this is where it's at.
Oh my god. I was gonna say, is that why you've never invited me to your farm?
You're invited anytime. I think everyone's first thing is like, I think it's hilarious. Like all my friends who live in the city or really don't like understand anything of what we're doing here, and they think we've gone off the deep end. They're like, you guys are crazy. Like you bought a farm and like at an auction, and then like, but you bought another farm, and we're like, yep, we did that. We did that. Their first thing is like, if I come out there, is it gonna stink? Like,
Are you gonna make me work?
what you're worried about, like maybe don't come out. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't stink. We're very clean with our animals. Okay,
I never
doesn't
asked you
stink.
that. I never thought it was crazy either. I was just like, holy shit, that's a huge undertaking. And I mean, dude, if I ever was like, I feel like I should
Yeah.
start farming. I mean, obviously I'd ask you, but I would definitely just be on. I'm like, can you fucking YouTube how to farm? Because I have no idea. Can you Google how to start farming? Because that just seems like,
You can, but like you can, you can like YouTube has
yeah,
everything. I feel like for anyone out there who's like, hey, I want to start farming. I want to
yeah,
start a farm. I want to like go
yeah.
off grid. Just like one step at a time. I mean, that's probably where we go wrong with everything we do. It's like, let's do this, and then let's add 10 more animals,
Yeah.
or like let's buy an alpaca, and then my husband goes to pick it up and they're like, hey, would you take a second one for free? And he calls me, he's like, I'm in a weird BOGO alpaca idea like concept here, like
Yeah.
what do I do? I'm like, just take it, that seems like the right choice. And then we get her here, and I was like, oh, I see why she was free. Like she is a
She's a
bitch.
bitch.
She was a bitch. She was horrible. She kicked and spit and like the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, damn it. That's why we got that one for free. That
That's so
was a
funny.
bad choice. Like for anyone who's seriously interested in it, just like go slow. Like start with something small. Like just give yourself like a little raised bed garden.
Yeah.
See how that goes. Like get maybe like a couple chickens. Don't go all in.
Yeah. Well, even
But then again, that's probably what made it like funny and fun and kept us
yeah,
addicted.
throw yourself into it. Well, I can't believe it's been almost an hour. I was so enamored with everything that you were saying. You
I
said a lot of
know.
really good stuff, and I feel like you have inspired me to maybe, not be the apartment living, saying I can't do it, saying I can't grow anything type person. I was like, okay, she's calling me out right now. So you've inspired me to look into, growing some things in my apartment, in my windowsill. So thank you for that. And hopefully everyone that's listening was also inspired by you and talking about reaching out to any farmers that they might know and learning about where their food comes from and why it's so important. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
At Goatin Crazy Farms on Facebook, on Insta, and also on Etsy.
What do you sell on your Etsy store?
The Etsy store has all of our like farm made soaps, lip balms made with local beeswax. We've got our wool products on there from our sheep and alpaca, all sorts of fun stuff. So we do our own like skin toners, tallow balms, really good like hearty farm ingredients. So and all the soaps have like all the lavenders grown here on the farm, chemical free. We dehydrate it and use all of that for our soap bases and such. So
Amazing.
it's all from the
That's so
garden,
cool.
from the
I've tried your
farm.
soaps and your lip balm, and they were excellent. So I'm glad that you're selling them on Etsy because more people should experience them.
Good.
Yeah, they're great. All right. Well, God bless you for doing the work that most of us don't want to do and that we bitch about. We appreciate you for real, for real.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. Well, thank you again for coming on, and until next time, stay brilliant.